Agnes blinked. The pearly gates were not pearly at all, but rather a corroded steel door with peeling paint, bearing the ominous label Department of Celestial Housing and Allotment, Form 74B Processing. Disappointment warred with a burgeoning sense of dread. This wasn't the serene paradise she'd envisioned. She shuffled forward, joining a queue of souls stretching into an eternity of beige carpet. Each soul seemed resigned to their fate, eyes glazed over with the monotony of the waiting game. Agnes consulted her soul allocation paperwork, Form 42A, already dog-eared and crumpled from constant handling. It specified further processing required at Form 74B counter. What a joy. Hours bled into days. The air hung thick with the scent of stale coffee and despair. Agnes watched as souls ahead of her were called, their numbers announced with a monotone drone from a loudspeaker hidden behind a stained window. She learned the names of several souls who'd been stuck in the same queue for centuries, their narratives becoming intertwined with the endless shuffle. Bartholomew had lost his number thrice, and a shimmering being named Xylo was on permanent hold due to an unsorted metaphysical particle in his soul file. Finally, her number was called. The counter attendant, a bored-looking cherub named Phil, barely looked up from his holographic crossword. He stamped her Form 42A, a single, perfunctory motion that seemed to encapsulate the utter indifference of the afterlife. "Form 74B, please," he mumbled. Agnes presented it, her heart sinking as she realized she'd forgotten to fill in Section 5C, Subclause 3. Phil sighed, a sound louder than the trumpets of any heavenly host she'd imagined. "Back of the line, ma'am," he declared, his voice dripping with bureaucratic authority. The line was longer than before, a never-ending river of souls swirling around her. Days turned into weeks, then months. The monotonous drone of the loudspeaker continued its ceaseless work, the only consistent element of this soul-crushing existence. She even saw Bartholomew's soul again, his number once again lost. This time, however, he was surprisingly serene. He'd apparently found a hidden community in the corner, trading recipes for everlasting tea. Agnes discovered that the tea, despite the mundane afterlife setting, was actually quite good. It offered a small measure of comfort in the sea of paperwork. She even made a friend, a jovial soul named Beatrice, who was waiting for her harp to be tuned. They spent their days complaining about the inefficiency of the celestial bureaucracy. Beatrice had been waiting for her harp for over 500 years. Agnes learned the nuances of afterlife bureaucracy. She discovered the hidden shortcuts, the unwritten rules, the subtle manipulations that could expedite slightly the process. She even discovered a hidden basement cafeteria, a sanctuary of surprisingly good coffee and cheap pastries. The pastries were a true revelation, moist, flaky, and a stark contrast to the arid boredom of the waiting area. Years passed in a blur of paperwork, pointless forms, and endless queues. She learned to expertly navigate the illogical labyrinth of the celestial bureaucracy, even assisting other souls lost in the bureaucratic wilderness. She became a sort of unofficial guide, helping navigate the illogical procedures and endless forms. Agnes learned to cope, to find small moments of joy in the absurdity of it all. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, her Form 74B was approved. Phil the cherub actually managed a small, almost imperceptible smile. He stamped it and handed Agnes a small, chipped key. "Cubicle 47B, Sector 3, he muttered. "Enjoy your eternity." Agnes unlocked the door to her celestial cubicle. It was small, functional, and surprisingly clean. It wasn't the heavenly paradise she had imagined, but it was hers. She placed her slightly sticky teacup on the desk. It was a small victory in a world of soul-crushing paperwork. And that, she realized, was something to be appreciated.